He would like to know if you have the problem of pulp mills in your state.
Northern California used to be, but this is an industry that is dying considerably. And the pulp mill and the logging wars stopped, for the most part, about 15 years ago. In Northern California, where we have some of the most majestic forests, especially our redwoods, this is where the pulp mills and the logging industry had been the most active. And there had been great tension with the pulp mills in this industry of the logging, and that has now come to a real minimal problem because, frankly, overforesting. Where the problem is north of us in Oregon and Washington states. In the Northwest, the Pacific Northwest, this is a problem. But Oregon is also a rather enlightened state, and so they're trying to regulate also the pulp mill production in excess as well.
Would you like to make any comments to the comments from this person from the province of Colonia, where they have the dairy farms and so on? This gentleman, the province?
Sure. I very much appreciate the comments. I feel like we're sister cities in that regard, brothers in arms who are, I think, on the same page. And ultimately, you know, you would hope that no matter where we are in this globe, in this planet, that education would be the lead strategy, and that as the lead strategy, education alone will suffice, will get us to where we want to go. But as we have experimented, and experimented thoroughly with education, I'm seeing that education alone, unless it is a significant investment on education, and you're able to create a measurement that is designed to capture the effectiveness of that education, education alone doesn't work. And when you are, and as well as we are, worried about the global problems, not just our local or regional or national problems, but the global problems, I do not see, as I said earlier, that our national government, Washington, Congress, or our state government is moving fast enough. And not that they're not trying, but because of the influence of special interest, corporate interest, and those who feel that the environmental, I think, mitigations that we want to enact threaten their profit motive. This is why there is the kind of slow progress in our national government or state government, which is why I really like to promote the idea for municipal government, local government, to step up to the plate. And if that means that local government is certainly superseded, you know, by the authority of state or federal government, challenge them. It's not the first time we've sued the federal or state government because we're looking to have our own rights. For example, in the state of California, we're suing the United States Environmental Protection Agency because we want that automobiles that come to California has a different mileage per gallon standard, that the mileage per gallon standard in the rest of the United States with the automobile industry is lower, but the technology exists so that you can at least get 35, 40 or more miles per gallon, liters, times 3.5, per gallon of gasoline here. But in California, we want those emission standards changed, and we want the technology for cars that come to California also modified so that there is less pollution being emitted into the air. So this is a prime example of a state suing the federal government for our own rights to have enhanced or more aggressive environmental law. Local government in a similar vein, was suing other state or federal government for our right to ban plastic bags, for example, because they're telling us that this is not our authority. Well, we're challenging that authority, and we've won that challenge. And this is why I think it's important for municipal governments. But education is very useful if done right. But education alone, in my opinion, does not work on the pace and on the timeline that we must all, I think, work together in reversing, I think, the environmental problems and economic problems caused by the environment to the degree we must. So I'm trying to be pragmatic, I'm trying to be diplomatic about it, but as I'm known here, I will charge forward because I feel like we don't have much time to waste.
I would like to know what sort of dissemination campaigns and educational campaigns you carried out. Were they directed to consumers? Were they directed to citizens in general? Or have you been able to do some cross-cutting activities, for example, in the syllabus of formal education like school and high school education?
It's a great question. This is the disconnect, because I think in our public school system, this is where habits should be learned of a different kind. And this is where the syllabus in the curricula of our public school system, where it is not uniform yet. And that's where there has to be this educational campaign for our young people as they're coming up in generations to respect the environment. And that's where it's weak. And there has to be, in my opinion, that level of education. But most of the young people are also not the major consumers yet. And so the major consumers, those who are expending the dollars, are typically their parents or adults. And so that the high percentage of those consumers are the ones that we also need to help convert and educate now, today. And while we try to certainly plant the seeds for a more effective educating of green ideals in the public school system, that is something that is future focused. But today now, there is a consumer population that we are challenged to help explain why it's critical to have this lifestyle conversion. And that's where the challenges are greatest, because as adults, as we all know, for myself, it's sometimes hard to change habits. Habits don't change overnight. And so that kind of education that we were trying to address was on cable television, through city-sponsored commercials, on bus stop zones where there is the public bus, the transit areas. We would have posters in the bus stop zones. In grocery stores, we were requiring grocery stores or asking grocery stores to put up educational material. But since grocery stores are private property, this is their own private property, they did not have to comply unless we passed a law to make them help promote their consumers. So some of the grocery stores would put signs right by the checkout counters, please don't use plastic, please don't use paper. And some grocery stores, just to be defiant, would actually put the sign in the frozen food section, just so that they said they put the sign up and nobody would see it. So it was evident that they were not going to be a team player and that they did not want to get to the same place.